Hello, everyone. I am Eliana Alzate, the digital editor of the DePauw newspaper and a senior media fellow here on campus. Today, we're having a lovely chat with someone who has been widely regarded as a wonderful professor on DePauw University's campus. She is a Raymond W. Pence Professor of English at DePauw University and has taught several students since she started out here at 1990. And now I really wish I took a class with her because every student who I came across talked about this professor and said, "Oh my gosh, your life will change as a writer once you go into her classes. You will never be the same." And we are here to learn more about that with Professor Andrea Sununu. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. And just to start off with the first question, so taking a trip down memory lane, so you came to DePauw back in 1990, and when you first came to Greencastle all those years ago, what was the first thing that drew you towards DePauw's campus and the campus community?
Well, I met colleagues in the English department the night before my interview, and I liked them right away. And I liked what they said about the students, and I thought this is my kind of place.
Yeah, that's amazing. What did the professor say about the students here at DePauw?
Well, what they said made it sound as though DePauw would be like colleges at which I had taught. I had taught at Mount Holyoke in Massachusetts, at Swarthmore in Pennsylvania, and at Oberlin in Ohio. And I'd also taught at the University of New Hampshire, which it's a state university, but it had small classes. So I felt as though this was familiar territory. And when I'd been in graduate school, I knew I did not want to teach at a large university. I wanted a small liberal arts college experience because that's what I had had as an undergraduate. And I felt that was ideal for college. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I did read from a 2023 article from her campus. I believe it was Courtney Marsh. She wrote in her article that you had your experience in a liberal arts education as you prepared for your French and Lebanese baccalaureate exams before college. So yeah, I was wondering, how did your early liberal arts education shape who you are as a professor today?
Well, I did grow up in Beirut, Lebanon, and so I went through the French school system. So I think that the French school system up through 12th grade is really a liberal arts college experience. Everything goes back. I mean, I think the American educational system and the French one, they're the opposite of each other in the sense that the up through 12th grade, you're basically going through a liberal arts experience. And so it was a very easy transition to go to college because that's sort of what I'd already had.
Yeah, that's really wonderful to hear. And also in the previous article that I saw from actually the DePauw newspaper, I think in 24, it seems like I'm doing like so much background research. Yeah, I read that you speak French, Arabic, and English.
Yes, my French school, I started French at age 3 in, I guess, what you would call pre-K in the U.S. And then in first grade, I started Arabic, and I did it all the way through 12th grade.
That's amazing. And as someone with these like variety of languages and cultural experiences, I was wondering, how do you also bring this multiculturalism while teaching literature at DePauw?
Well, I do so in the sense that I always encourage students to take languages, and I like, whenever I can, to make connections with literature of other languages and other cultures. And it's one of the things I've liked about teaching first-year seminars and teaching in the Honors Scholar program, because of the diversity of perspectives and the sense that we're not just focused on something tiny, but there's a sense of making connections with a larger world. I think America is very isolationist, especially nowadays when the world is in a mess because of the US. And anything we can do to make the importance of the diversity of cultures crucial in people's lives, I think, is very important.
That's really wonderful. And I also saw in a previous DePauw University story that you found a lot of inspiration in a quote by Virginia Woolf. And the Woolf quote that you said was, "The great revelation had never come. The great revelation perhaps never did come. Instead, there were little daily miracles, illuminations, matches struck unexpectedly in the dark." So do you have like a particular memory or experience where you kind of saw that daily miracle or spark within a student while you were teaching?
Oh, so many that would be hard to enumerate them. I see them all the time. I really, it's hard to pick just one. But I think often what happens is I have a peculiar method of teaching my classes because I require rewrites in most classes, every paper except for the last one. And in some classes, even the last one. And then I have a conference with every student after every paper and every rewrite. And in recent years, some students have been writing some papers 4 times or 5 times, and not just making a few tiny revisions, but really rethinking the argument of the paper. And I know that some students think this is just absolutely crazy and unfair. But I love it when students say to me, "Now I see why you're doing this." I think, okay. So I had an experience that I often tell students about. I can show you my first college paper, which came back. I almost know the entire final comment by heart, but I'll get it out to show you. This was my first English college paper.
Oh, like your paper.
My paper from 1965.
Wow.
I graduated in 1969, so that's 57 years ago. It was a terrible paper. I used polysyllables in every single sentence because I thought I was feeling shaky with my English, and I thought the way to impress the professor was to use big words. And I'll just read you the funniest part. So this was in the middle of the Vietnam War, and he had assigned a book of essays. We started off the semester with a book of essays on warfare, and we read an essay by Bertrand Russell, who was against war. And so in the first paragraph, he says, "You attempt to attack Russell at too many points and have failed to marshal your evidence in clear order so that your efforts are partly wasted." So basically what he was saying to me is that my paper was poorly organized. But this is a funny part. And feel free to laugh because it's very funny. It's biting. It's very sarcastic. He was a wonderful professor. I learned everything I know about writing from him. I asked him to become my advisor for my major in English literature, and he did. And I always tell students, I always pass around my essay in class and show my students. And I tell them that I never use this kind of tone in my final comments, but I certainly had to learn fast with his tone. He says, "You have, I am sure, a large vocabulary and some facility with language, but what you have demonstrated here is not, underlined, good writing. You have piled one impressive word on another in a self-conscious, imprecise, highly pretentious mountain of rubbish. I did not even attempt, after the first paragraph, to indicate the instances of this. I strongly recommend that you read George Orwell's essay, Politics and the English Language, where he states some excellent rules for clear, simple, direct writing. Would you please rewrite this paper with simple diction in mind?" One of my current senior advisees told me when he was finishing up, during the last week when he was finishing up his honors scholar thesis, he had in front of him George Orwell's essay, Politics and the English Language.
Oh my gosh.
He told me he rewrote the entire thesis that last week, making the prose clearer. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So again, the comments here are, "Please distinguish between elevated, appropriate diction and stilted, pretentious nonsense." And then here, "By using such terms, you totally misrepresent what in fact Russell does say." And then he says, then he has points about my using a transitive verb intransitively. And then he says here, "Yes, this is page 2. I think this is so, though your language still irritates me.
Oh my
And then halfway
gosh.
page 2, he says, at last I can concentrate on what you are saying rather than how you are saying it. And then he went on with other things. A long digression, but it was such a transformative experience for me. I figure I can help students to realize that there's a way of improving their writing because they come from an experience of, especially nowadays, writing is not taught the way it used to be.
Mhm.
And this year's class of 29, and the students were in 6th grade or 7th grade during COVID. So there's so much that I think could be a hindrance for them in college, especially with the advent of AI. And I like to give students tools to learn to think on their own and write on their own and take pride in what they can produce.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm curious with all these very scathing comments on your initial college paper. How did you react back then?
Well, I'm sure I was devastated when I got it back and realized I had to. When I read my essay now, I don't know what I say. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I also have my rewrite, and it was totally different. So I had to learn fast.
Yeah, I could imagine. And I was also, based on a few students who came to my writing tutor sessions and some students who I've chatted with are like, oh, Sununu has this very unique approach to writing the comments on the margins, having 7 rewrites, and even like meeting with students at like 1 a.m. or something. Like, could you tell me more about that?
Well,
as far as
there's some students are night people. So, for example, one student who went on to get a PhD at University of California in Santa Cruz, and now is working with doing all sorts of sophisticated stuff with video games. Anyway, he always used to sign up for, he'd say, can we meet at midnight? So it was a tradition to have for him to sign up for a conference at midnight. So just partly it's because I just am constantly in conference. This semester I'm on sabbatical, so I'm not in conference as often as I've retained my advisee during my sabbaticals. I always do that. I always take only one semester. But during the academic year, there just aren't enough times before 5 p.m. to meet with all the students I meet with. So I'm a morning person by temperament, but I've trained myself to become a night person.
Wow.
And I've stayed, when in college, I never used to stay up beyond 11 or midnight. But now that's a luxury to stop at that time.
Wow, that is amazing. And I was curious, like, of course, that's a lot of, I heard that like you would read students' papers like 5 times again and again.
Well, if they turn in 5 drafts, I will read them the 5 times, and then we'd have a conference 5 times for over the paper. But anyway, I have many conferences per student in the course of a semester.
Yeah, definitely. And I can imagine probably at times it can get a little like exhausting or like how do you find the motivation to keep going and analyzing?
Well, I get the motivation from the students themselves because they tell me it makes a difference. So as long as it makes a difference, I'll keep doing what I do.
Yeah.
And of course, not all students. I mean, one of my most marked moments at DePauw came in my very first semester.
Yeah.
I had a student had come to talk about his rewrite. And about an hour later, at the time, our mailboxes were in what is now the poli-sci lobby.
Oh, okay.
And so I went to my mailbox. And as I was leaving, I happened to glance at the wastebasket. And I thought, oh, that's my handwriting.
Oh, no.
So I reached down, and there was the student's paper. And he had clearly, and so I had an hour's conference, and sometimes my conferences last for longer than an hour, but generally it's an hour's conference. So let's say I had an hour's conference over his first paper,
right?
An hour's conference over his rewrite, and both papers were there.
Oh,
were
no.
there. And I thought, oh no, all this time. And he just walked out to my office and dropped them there. And I was just devastated.
Oh no. Did the student find out that you knew?
I didn't tell him. I didn't tell
Oh
him. I didn't
gosh.
want to embarrass him.
Oh gosh. But that's terrible.
But
Uh-huh.
I noticed that the next year he wasn't back at DePauw. So I think he must not have done well in his other classes.
Oh,
So-
okay. Okay. Gosh, that's so like, yeah, devastating as a
yeah.
teacher, as a
Yeah.
professor, especially.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, was there a particular moment where you really saw a student taking that feedback and growing as a writer, like weeks,
Lots and
years
lots
later?
of students. Wherever I've taught, I've seen students
Yeah.
really find it beneficial. So that's why I keep doing it.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. And I've also heard from another interview, I think it's either of the two, it's the twins, like Luis and Francisco. It's either of them. They did an interview with you. For, like,
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh gosh.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think like
Yes.
you mentioned that like you had some students like visiting you after they graduated and like dropping off gifts or something. Could you
Oh,
tell me more
that
about
happens a lot.
Yeah.
That happens a lot, yes. In fact, I'll show you this mysterious. I hope someday to find out who sent me this. On Thursday, I'm going to be reading this poem. I don't know if you saw the poster, the flyer about the Pause for Poetry.
Oh, I think I have
events.
seen something
Yes,
like that.
And I'm doing one this week, and then next week it's Joe Heighthouse on Tuesday.
Mm.
So here's a poem. So this is the poem I'm going to be reading.
Oh,
So
that's
this event is only
lovely.
10 minutes, but this is a favorite poem of mine by Gerard Manley Hopkins. And in the mail, a couple of years ago, this appeared in the mail from the Netherlands.
Oh,
And
wow.
it came with this note. It says, "Happy 23-24 school year, Andrea. Thinking of you and of Rowan and Ruby Getting. I'll always be grateful to have had you as a teacher and advisor." And it was unsigned, and there was no return address.
That's
And
crazy.
it's from the Netherlands. And she had, and clearly this was,
Gosh.
so she copied this out, and it came in this elaborate, framed and
Yeah.
with glass.
With like the dried
And with the
flowers.
dried flowers, and even you can hang it this way, or you could. And I don't know who it was. I tried matching handwriting. I can't figure out who it is.
Oh my
I
gosh.
hope someday to be able to thank the sender, but it was just. So this is an example.
Wow. So tell me more about this ruin and
Oh,
re-beginning.
that's the name of my honor scholar seminar. I've taught a first year seminar every fall since 1997. And I gave my seminar this title the first time round.
Yeah.
And twice the honor scholar program was asked to drop a section. So I said to Amy Welch, drop mine because I can pick up a first year seminar at the English department. So
Wow.
this coming fall, I'll be teaching my 30th first year seminar in 30 years.
Oh my gosh.
The first year seminar program did not come into existence until 1998,
Uh-huh.
but but it was modeled on the honor scholar first year seminars, and I already taught one a year before
Yeah.
it became a college-wide requirement.
Yeah.
So it was really fun.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's something I really hope that you find that person. It's funny because you make me think of an instance. Mine is like much more
Oh.
terrible than yours.
Oh,
It was
Oh.
this is so random. It was someone tried to imitate me on an email and then tried to ask. Yeah,
Really?
it's kind of like an identity theft thing. They're like, "Hi,
Oh,
I'm
no.
Eliana. Could I ask for like information on your academic awards?" And then I never found out who that is. But it's a situation where
how
I don't want.
scary.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know if it, because it's a journalistic thing or just because of high school things. But yeah, yours is much better.
Oh,
Yours is the opposite of the situation that I would want to
Oh.
witness. Yeah,
yes.
and this was also kind of a funny one. I was also
Oh.
doing a bit of research. Have you ever heard of the the platform Rate My Professor?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I actually looked like out of sheer curiosity, I looked into it, and actually I was amazed because you had like a whopping 4.8 out of 5, and it was reviews from 2005 to 2026, which is
Oh,
an amazing average
oh,
rating. And I'll read out one review from
all
2016.
the work you've done.
It's all part of being a journalist. There was one comment that said, conferences with Sununu taught me more about writing than 4 years of high school English. She is, and I know you're like big on these kinds of terms, but she said, or whoever this has said, she is a DePauw legend. And I just wanted to tell you that because that was not the first comment where I saw that as well. But I was wondering, I know I'm probably not the first one to like say these kinds of like terms and like praises, but I was wondering, how do these kinds of like statements from students and even alumni make you feel as a professor?
Well, I'm gratified when people say that. I mean, I don't think I deserve any of this praise, but I'm thrilled that they think I've been helpful to them. Yeah, I mean, it's rewarding because there are many times when I feel discouraged. And so it's nice to know that some people feel that what I do has meant something.
Yeah, definitely. Why do you feel discouraged at certain points of teaching?
Well, I mean, teaching is full of disappointing moments when you think, okay, I've corrected this, I've explained this rule umpteen times already. It hasn't yet stuck. So sometimes it's hard to feel on a day-to-day basis that I'm making a difference. And so when I get a comment that suggests, well, maybe I've taught students something, it's very gratifying.
Definitely. And I know a lot of students who graduate from DePauw also become mentors themselves. Probably some people become teachers, some people become journalists, and they're teaching the next generation of storytellers. Exactly. Yeah, so I'm wondering for, especially with the graduating class of 2026, just a month after graduation, what's your advice to them for people who want to become future storytellers or future mentors to students as well?
Well, keep doing what they're doing and make sure that you find something you enjoy doing rather than going for the money. I remember that a few years ago, a DePauw alumnus spoke at commencement. He gave the commencement address. And he said that he had become a lawyer, but he's also become a writer. And he said that when he was in his first job, he was in awe of the main lawyer in the firm. And he said, after a while, it occurred to him that the reason this lawyer was so successful is that he loved what he did as his job. And so he spent all his time working. And because he spent all his time working, he got to be really good at what he was doing. And it was a revelation to him that that's what it was. And so if you have work that you're not enjoying, you're not going to put your heart into it, and yet you're not going to feel as though you're doing well. And life can seem kind of bland that way. But that story reminds me of another story I heard from someone. I was at a conference, and someone mentioned she was teaching in New York City. And she said that she was teaching a course on Milton. And in Milton, in Paradise Lost, Adam and Eve, before the fall, take their work very seriously in the garden because they have to make sure that the garden is kept well. And one of her students was much older than the rest of the students, and he was in fact retired. And so he had decided after retirement, he had done, I think, factory work. And he decided to get a college education after age 65. So he was in her class. And he was absolutely in raptures and astonished to hear that Milton, in his epic about Eden before the fall, could envision Adam and Eve really taking work seriously because they felt as though they were accomplishing something. And he felt as though his whole life he hadn't gotten a sense of accomplishment from work. And so to him, it was a thrill to find out that work could be fun. So I hope that for any senior going out into the world beyond DePauw, will find work that's fun and that therefore can be fulfilling for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. Are you planning to go to the commencement for this?
Oh, of course. Yes, I'll go to commencement.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like probably you've witnessed like a lot of commencements. I don't know, 20, 30 years.
Oh, more than that. I have gone to, I've gone to 35 commencements at DePauw, so this will be my 36th. And I had taught for 17 years before that. And then I had my own commencement for my BA and my commencement for my MA and my commencement for my PhD. So I've had lots of commencements.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And how does it feel every time you see like students you've probably worked with for like 4 years, like going on stage and now going into the
and several times now. This year, the commencement speaker was my student in the Honor Scholar program.
Oh my gosh!
And a few years ago, John Fort took two of my classes, so it's fun. They even come back and speak at commencement.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I actually met John Ford in New York back in March. And it's just so cool to see your impact on students like years later and immortalized on print as well. So one of my last questions is, going forward over the next few months, next few semesters, what is your goal, or what things are you excited about in doing as a professor?
Well, I'm excited and just continuing to do what I've been doing. And one of the nice things about teaching is that I keep in touch with many students after they graduate. And so, in fact, I have the books on my shelf, and then I have Zoom reunions with many of them. So I like to keep the connection going even after students leave campus.
Yeah.
But while I'm on campus, I'll just continue to do what I do, try to do the best job I can in the classroom and get students to get excited when they see that they can write well and think clearly.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. And this is my super duper last question. What do you love doing around Green Castle? Like things that you do outside of English literature, things that you enjoy about the campus community in general?
Well, I like going to events. I went to Alexandra Quesada's recital on Saturday.
I think I heard of that. Yeah.
And I went to Justice's performance, as he called it. I don't know if you saw it. This was the cutest.
The poster?
The post, yeah.
Oh, yes. I have seen that. The multicolored.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was amazing. He played multiple instruments and he also sang and he composed some of the music. I mean, it was really quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
So I like to go to events. Then yesterday I went to the Bonner Scholar presentation because one of my former students had worked there. And so I just like when people complain there's nothing to do in Green Castle. I think that's not true. There's plenty to do. And the nature park is also lovely to have. In the old days, I used to hear students talk about how they sneaked over to the quarry. One of my advisees, in fact, got engaged at the quarry. And I kept thinking, where is this quarry? It's really lovely.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that I haven't asked about that you think students should know? Anything you would like to share before we
Well, I know I can't think of anything. You're very thorough and I can't believe all the digging.